Hi everybody, I am Stacy with Stacy's Organizing and Decorating for Life. I am here to help you organize your thoughts and decorate your perspectives. I want to thank you all, the new subscribers to this channel. Thank you so much for subscribing. I really appreciate that, and I want to really allow my appreciation for those who have been subscribed to this channel, and I love you all from the bottom of my heart. Second thing is I want you to look at the information below if you get a chance. There's a disclaimer there that lets you know who I am and what I am not, so that we can be on the same page and just understand that I'm sharing my experience with you. And I thank you all who comment on here. Thank you, Nicole, for commenting. And so today we're going to talk about, to get back in the topic and everything, because I told you I appreciate your time, so I'm shortening these videos. We're going to talk about the revamping and relationships. So, please like and subscribe if you like that's what we're going to talk about. And I touched on it last week, that we've dealt in the last few years, few months, few days of the relationships. Some of us have experienced grief, the loss of somebody, whether it be by death or by breakup, so that's another one is, by breakup. Some people's relationships have had to go part ways. We're also looking at, current relationships. How can we learn from the past relationships and continue to grow? So I don't know that I can get this all in a 10-minute video. But anyway, and then we're also looking at relationships with our families, maybe our, parents, children relationships. Many of those have changed and evolved too. So I think that that's going to be another separate video from this. So today we're going to generally talk about relationships, but not those, because those are probably the most work for all of us, no matter which part you're playing in that, the parent, the child, the, brothers, sisters, siblings and stuff. So I want to talk about that in a separate video. So today is just a typical general one. And as usual, I always have a quote. So today we're going to look at a little bit of Khalil Gibran, because when we look at revamping in our relationship, we can look at that two ways. We can look at feeling our fears, but then we also have to acknowledge our desires. And so it's being able to be in harmony with that, because oftentimes we get this fear of abandonment in relationships, where that grief comes from. It's underneath everything else, right? It's this fear of abandonment, because all of us experience fear of abandonment. Now, looking at our, defects and stuff, that would be a fear of abandonment if you're in recovery, So a lot of times people try to take the power out of the relationship when they get the fear of abandonment. We try to take that out of the relationship. Say that if you have a period of not talking to somebody and finding if you're clingy or what, sorry about that. We don't want to do that. We want to give people their power. We want to have our own power and let people have their own power, so we aren't codependent in our relationships. So when a person is processing their feelings, we don't want them to be spewing their feelings onto us, and that would cause harm. I believe we talked about not causing harm, or I talked about that in a post this week anyway, about not causing harm. So sometimes we just need to process our feelings and allow people to be who they are, because that's all we want to be, is loved for who we are. But sometimes we have to process what's going on with us. So the other person can't fix us. No one else can fix us. That's what we learn in the codependency. So let's look at Khalil Gibran and some of the quotes, okay? So one is that we choose our joys and our sorrows long before we experience them. That's Khalil Gibran. I've got a few quotes. So in choosing those joys and sorrows, that's fears and desires, right? That's the joys and sorrows. And sometimes we get confused with our imagination being our intuition, because we're like, oh, I just know that this is happening. I just know this is what they think. I just know that this is, this is going to happen. That's a fear. So it's being able to navigate which is a fear and which is a desire, and what am I going to give my attention to? So that leads us to another Khalil Gibran quote, which is like, if your heart is a volcano, how can you expect flowers to bloom? Like, and we don't think about these things. So what can we do to get out of the volcano, get our heart out of the volcano? There are things that we can do. we are merging with this. Like I said, in the past few years, a lot of this has been very intense. So we're merging with this. And for me, I know that when I'm dealing with this, because I have a fear of abandonment, like many people do. And so when I start going into that fear, I don't feel it all the time, thankfully, and it usually goes to different levels and layers. But the thing is I can get out into nature, or I can go into the digital world, which is what we're dealing with today. It's like, what is real? Well, nature is really real, but the digital world is real too. So it's what we choose. That's about our choices, and our choices are what empower us. So, like he was saying, if our heart is a volcano, we have a choice whether we want to be in the volcano or not. And the other thing is that the other quote, the last quote that I'm going to use for you today is called, "Love and doubt have never been on speaking terms." Love and doubt have never been on speaking terms. So we desire love, but we feel doubt. So we get this intuition and imagination confused with each other. So in learning what's real, we know nature is real, but we can also choose how we feel. So what if we're in the house? What can we choose to do? Well, I watched this Khalil Gibran video myself when I was going through my process, allowing somebody else to go through their process, and also helping others with their processes, because that's what we get to do. That's what humanity is about, is helping each other out. Okay, so when somebody else is going through a process, oftentimes we think that if we get up in their business, that that is going to help them, that we want to know what's going on with them. But really, it's like we have that fear of abandonment. So am I really coming from concern, or am I coming from worry? Because worrying about somebody does not empower somebody. Okay, we've learned. I know I've learned too. We've all learned. I think most of us have learned, is because people will say, "I'm worried about you," and they say this, but really they want to know what's going on. So wanting to know what's going on is of concern, but is it our business? See, that's what we learn in codependency, is what's my business, God's business, and somebody else's business. And so when we can really look at ourselves when somebody else is in a process, and look at our intentions and motivations, we can understand more about our own relations. So this is what I'm talking about, is that if somebody has pulled away from you, it seems like, or, you're not feeling, it's like, feel your own energy, because that's going to empower you, and it's also going to empower them too, because they get to feel their own energy. Sometimes we interrupt that flow if we get in somebody else's business thinking we know. That's just arrogance, when we think that we know how somebody else should be thinking or feeling. And this is where codependence is even originated, is because somebody else is taking control, usually our parents. That's why next week's video will be there. But anyway, somebody's taking control of what we think and what we feel, and so we think that that's really real. But the thing is that we were all meant to evolve, and that also goes into next week's video, is this evolution, and the not judging ourselves and not judging others, and forgiving ourselves and forgiving others. That's what makes a relationship successful, because we're going to have those things. I had to learn in my grief, because after I lost my son, I didn't want to hurt anymore, And so I had to learn in my grief that everyone is going to hurt us, possibly, whether they want or plan to or not, because we all have these wounds, and we're all just bumping into each other in our wounds, and everything is for our right and divine healing. Now, saying that, I'm not telling you to stay in bad relationships. I'm saying that it's a choice, but we get to grow from that. It's not saying that because I'm broken, because we think we're broken when we choose and we think other people are broken. We're all broken, but we're not. It's whether we choose to evolve from that and to grow and to be able to look at our intentions and motivations and how they can be better. How can we empower ourselves and empower somebody else? How do we come from a place of not being a volcano Or, what we say in recovery is I take people hostage. And when we take people hostage, we want to know what they're thinking, what they're doing all the time, and that everything has to do with us. And I could go on and rhyme. I got to stop, though, because we're almost out of time. So I just want to leave you with this quote, leave you with the quotes today. Sometimes I'll leave you with a tip, sometimes it's quotes. But remember, love and doubt have never been on speaking terms. Khalil Gibran. And what I started with in the beginning was we choose our joys and sorrows long before we experience them. So what are you going to choose today? Okay? All right. So thank you very much. I wish you much peace and love and blessings, and remember these polarities below and above, because sometimes what seems bad is just for our growing experience. And I'm not saying that it's not bad. I'm just saying we have choices today. Okay? Thank you so much. Bye.